In this recording, we're going to evaluate how the concepts of modernity and postmodernity have influenced our society today. Modernists try to explain society, but postmodernists argue that you can't explain society. Modernists believe that there is an objective truth, which is possible, but postmodernists argue that the objective truth isn't possible. Modernists believe that society is dominated by science, but postmodernists argue that society isn't dominated by science. Modernism believes that industrialization and manufacture of standardized goods for a mass market, work and social class are the main forms of social division, and that societies are interdependent nation-states. Durkheim, Weber and Marx believe that scientific analysis can be used to uncover the meta-narrative and the direction of social change can be identified. They support the Enlightenment, which was a broad intellectual movement to sweep away from the previous prejudices of past generations. However, postmodernists reject the Enlightenment project because they argue that people no longer believe in the inevitability of progress or the power to solve all problems. People are now more pessimistic, and most people will unaccept the idea of the absolute truth. Postmodernists like Lyotard believe that postmodernism centres on language games where each side is trying to assert certain things to be true. This competition for narrative helps socialisation. Science has tried to end the narrative game by being based on science, but even science rests on meta-narratives of progress and to conquer nature. Lyotard argues in a postmodern society, the search for truth is abandoned as diversity dominates and people lose faith in the search for truth. Baudrillard believes that society has moved into a distinctive new phase, but it is a trap which is impossible to escape. Society has moved away from the Marxist idea of production towards the buying and selling of signs, which bear little relationship to reality. For example, the Louds family were filmed as a typical Californian family, but during filming, the family fell apart and went their separate ways. Society has imploded and nothing can escape the exchange of signs, and power is no longer unequally distributed, but it simply no longer exists. However, Marxists would argue that Thatcher may be a postmodern puppet, but had real consequences for many people, and Harvey argues that Baudrillard ignores the power and rising inequality found in Western society. Bauman believes that society is in a stage of liquid modernity, as everything is unpredictable and uncertain. The life in postmodern society resembles a shopping mall, where people can stroll around consuming whatever they like and picking and mixing their identities. So overall, the postmodernist view is useful because it's highlighted important cultural changes, it placed an emphasis on the construction of identity, and it proves insight into the contemporary social changes. However, Marxists like Philo and Miller believe that the denial of an existing reality is dangerous as it encourages political apathy. Sociology must remain engaged with real political and social issues, and they argue that audiences are well aware of misrepresentations. Also, Harvey believes that postmodernism is simply a theory of capitalism in order to defend capitalism. So Giddens, who's a late modernist, rejects the claims of postmodernists, but recognises that significant changes have happened in society. Giddens argues that late modernity is based on capitalism, industrialisation, surveillance and military power. Giddens believes that the change of scope and rapid pace are global, and you can remember these things by remembering the acronym GREGS with a D. So you got D, which is time and space desensitization. R is the fact that people are more reflexive. E is when people trust more in expert systems than real people. G is when modernity is globalizing. And S is the increase in symbolic tokens. However, Giddens' view can be criticised by Kaspersen, who believes that material inequalities constrain behaviour, And Tucker believes that Giddens has exaggerated the ability of individuals to shape their own lives. Each individual has a very different life which affects and shapes the possibilities of what they can and can't do. And Marxists believe that modernity is based on exploitation. So in conclusion, postmodernism in itself is a meta-narrative, and postmodernists argue that if meta-narratives and the absolute truths are dismissed, then surely postmodernism has in effect dismissed itself as having anything to say that is any more valid than anything else.